Hey, it's James, Father's Rights and Resources, hashtag how I got custody. I want to talk about the father's rights movement since I just got a message from these imbeciles and why they've been sitting around here for a couple decades that I know of, doing absolutely nothing but talking and yakking about shared parenting, which won't work even if it's put in place. It doesn't work in the states that it's in right now. And these fools, these idiots who lost in court, they were too incompetent to go for full custody. The father's rights movement, they say, oh, we're not going to lower ourselves to the mother's agendas and go for full custody. We're going to ask for 50-50. Meanwhile, the mother's falsely accusing you of domestic violence, child abuse, and all this other stuff. These guys have you thinking, go to court and ask for 50-50 and look like the good guy, like the Boy Scout, like the Cub Scout, like the wonderful angel and saint that you are, only to get creamed because if you say the mother is ethical and a perfectly fit mother when she's a mentally ill alienator and you don't want to call child abuse, see, this is the result of men being feminized. Oh, let me go in and do the holy righteous thing of going for 50-50. When children are safest with the father, as long as you're not an alienator, a narcissist, or child abuser, which I deal with sometimes. But these SIMPs wrote me a message showing that they're just stuck. How many more decades of them saying, we're going to reform, we're going to reform, we're going to reform while guys lose? And I'm sitting here helping guys win now. And then these guys quit and they rotate new guys in and out and new guys in and out. And then their fearless leader, Mark Ludwig, another fruity little nerdy simp, looked like he should be on Revenge of the Nerds, is sitting there talking about reform. These guys get an ego boost out of the attention they get from photo ops talking to legislators. So let's take a look at this and see how this is the most pathetic sellout. You know how Malcolm X used to talk about they would prop up actors and actresses and, you know, the white supremacists that Malcolm X was fighting, they would pay or go get a sellout black person to prop up to oppose Malcolm X. It's the Willie Lynch letter agenda. These are the sellouts that are propped up. This organization that has all kinds of followings and all kinds of bullcrap. So let me get into this post and I'll tell you guys and talk about it. Now, one thing I'm going to point out here, I have no problem with them having an emotional support hotline. Fathers need emotional support. Fathers are suicidal, all that other kind of stuff. I'm talking about them trying to fix the system. They're not doing jack squat and haven't done jack squat in all the decades I've seen since 2001. Now, let's take a look at this message I got. Here's what I posted. So I made this post about this problem. I said there's a huge trend of fathers' rights, hot air BS. Groups will steal other people's videos and repost sad, losing stories of dads to get views and clicks, which just feeds hopelessness. No solutions, just misery loves company whining from the Fathers Matter 247, Dad Talk Today, Fathers Are Important, the Fathers' Rights Movement. These guys got tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands followers. What are they doing to help guys win in court? They're posting videos of a guy crying about getting raped for child support, a guy losing in court, a baby mama drama visitation exchange. They're doing nothing. And they're posting other people's videos that they didn't even create themselves. Like, what a hustle and a con. Like, I might post a video that I'm reacting to, but I'm not stealing other people's content. I have my own content that I post from real life experience and real life wins by real life dads, including myself, and I show you my wins. These guys are sitting here, whine, cry. Here's another sad story. And let me just show you this. So here's Eric Carroll from Dad Talk Today. All he has is loser stories, or he'll talk about other things other than how to win in court because he didn't win himself. His ex-wife has a Facebook page talking what a narcissist he is. Men going their own way with his feminism. Let's talk about all the factions debating fathers' rights and let's not have any solutions for dads. So one time I messaged him and I said, dude, why don't you have guys on who actually won in court? Because there's countless ones. It doesn't have to be me. I said, all you're doing is feeding the hopelessness. The guy blocked me for saying that. He doesn't want answers. He doesn't want, look at that, parent alienation, more sad sack stories. Father fighting for custody of his daughter against mom's boyfriend. Sad story, sad story. Sad story, sad story. That's all they're doing is talking sad stories. And then, well, I guess he doesn't have that. He has 19,000 subscribers on YouTube. I think he's got hundreds of thousands on other social media. Yak. See, if I went on there and just post memes of sad sack stories, I'd have 100,000 followers, maybe 1 million, because I've been doing this so long. These guys are all rookie little biatches who haven't been at this stuff, and they think they know it all because they got a following, and they get, an erection over it, and their ego gets stroked, and because, and let me get into back to the father's rights. So the latest rookie running the father's rights movement main page on Instagram wrote me back, "You're entitled to your opinion. If you haven't been following the updates from our legislative liaison, Mark, I know what's going on, you stupid jackass. I've been doing this longer. I've probably been doing this longer than you've been alive. Then I suggest you do. 31 bills are being introduced throughout the states to focus on shared parenting. I have a whole video on shared parenting. Shared parenting will not work. We already have good laws. Best interest of the child. The other parent alienates. Emotional abuse. Withholding a child. Which parent is more likely to facilitate relations? What's the root of the problem if we had good laws? The judges do whatever their bias says. So if you have shared parenting, like I've said 1,000,000 times, this stupid jackass, he might be the same guy who sold out a guy in Michigan. I'm going to talk about that in a second. I suggest you do. There is major Title 4D reform that should be happening in the future. I've been hearing this stuff for 20 freaking years from these numbnuts losers. And this guy who wrote this is probably going to quit and get burnt out. And the next person is going to say, oh, we're working on it. There's the Father's Rights Movement group in Washington. The leader there, he took a bunch of photo ops of legislators and then got his ego and got, all sexually aroused over it. And he was there for 1.5 years and then burnt out and quit. This is the most progress the shared parenting community has made all the years we've been advocating for it. Have a blessed day. What the F ever, you simp little biatch. My God, these fruity little. So, if you want to know, so I have a video why shared parenting will not fix stuff. Because if you have a presumption of 50-50, there's always going to be, unless there's child abuse and domestic violence. What do women usually say nowadays in court when they want to ensure they get custody? They falsely accuse you of child abuse and domestic violence. How is that going to change with the 50-50 presumption that says you can still claim domestic violence and child? They're going to claim it even more. And in states where there's 50-50, there's still guys getting screwed. Florida just had a presumption of 50-50. People go in there with that presumption, and then the mother throws out false allegations. The only way this stuff will work is if you can't have your kids taken away unless there's a criminal case of conviction of child abuse and domestic violence. As long as this stuff is in civil court, where there's idiots in Ohio who have been working on 50-50 shared parenting for 20 years, and they wanted clear, cogent, and convincing evidence of domestic violence. And you know what? How that's going to change from preponderance evidence? The judge is just going to stamp and rubber stamp clear, cogent, and convincing that the father's an abuser. These guys are so stupid they can't use my sister with Down syndrome has more common sense. The women who lie now will just lie again. The judges ignore evidence and the best interest right now. How are they going to suddenly change when there's good laws? Black people had the Constitution when they're freed from slavery. Do you think they were treated right for the next 150 years or 120 years? It took 60 years to go from Plessy Ferguson to Brown versus Board of Education saying separate but equal is not equal. These guys are so full of crap. Now let me tell you. Here goes Mark Ludwig. What a manly force for father's rights.
50 since I was the dad, and I got relegated to even less than an every other weekend visitor because my son hadn't had much time around.
There's the main force behind the father's rights movement. So let me tell you real quick. Back in about 8 years ago in Michigan, this dad was being found in criminal contempt or convicted of criminal contempt because the judge told him not to criticize him and criticized him anyway. This jury acquitted him like 8 minutes. I reached out to the guy that runs the father's rights movement in Ohio. I messaged him. I said, you got to pounce on this because nobody cares about father's rights stuff, but this is a free speech issue. The national media will be all over it. He said, we can't. That guy committed a crime. And plus, we got to save our relationships with legislators because we're trying to do stuff. So that guy wanted to kiss ass of legislators and didn't want to help a dad who ended up getting acquitted. And he assumed that he was guilty. Sellout, subhuman.